She was only 15. A quiet, soft-spoken teenager with a hesitant smile. Elizabeth Thomas just wanted to survive high school. The stress, the instability at home, the weight of growing up. But she never got the chance. Instead, her future was stolen by someone who should have protected her. Tad Cummins wasn't a stranger. He was her teacher, a man in a position of power. An adult who stepped into her life under the guise of support, attention, and trust. But behind the kind words and lingering stares was a plan. Selfish, calculated, and devastating. In March 2017, Elizabeth disappeared without a trace. Her school panicked. Her family begged for answers. Then the truth came to light. She had been taken by Tad, a married man, nearly 50, who had spent months building a secret bond, grooming her under the illusion of love. For 38 days, they crossed the United States, city to city, hiding from authorities, living a twisted fantasy built on the abduction of a child. As the nation watched a desperate manhunt unfold, Elizabeth was kept isolated, controlled and emotionally dependent, believing she was in love. Today, you'll hear not just the story of a kidnapping, but the disturbing portrait of how emotional abuse can be quiet, calculated, and ruinous. And how, even in the darkest of circumstances, the truth finds a way to surface. Before we continue, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment. Do you think Tad Cummins planned everything from the beginning? Or was he consumed by his own obsession? Elizabeth Thomas was like many teenage girls, gentle, reserved, and full of quiet. She lived in Maury County, Tennessee, part of a large, religious family. Her days were simple, split between school, siblings, and surviving her home life. But behind her composed appearance, Elizabeth was dealing with pain that few could see. At home, things were unstable. Her father had faced abuse allegations and had been removed from the household. Her mother struggled emotionally and was often absent, physically and mentally. Elizabeth grew up with the sense that she had to protect herself. And in a 15-year-old, that creates dangerous spaces inside the soul. At school, she was neither popular nor invisible. She walked the halls with her eyes down, rarely spoke up in class, and carried a quiet weight in her posture. Some teachers noticed her sadness. Most moved on. But Tad Cummins saw something else, vulnerability he could use. To Tad, Elizabeth was unguarded, and therefore reachable. She needed someone to listen, someone to make her feel seen. He, an older man with charm and patience, knew exactly how to slip into that space. It started with compliments, little chats, subtle gestures. They seemed harmless. They weren't. Elizabeth thought she had found a friend, a mentor, someone who truly understood her. And in that fertile space, where abandonment and longing met, Tad planted his obsession. This didn't begin with force. It began with attention, with trust, with words far too sweet to be innocent. Tad Cummins was 50 years old, a married man, father of 2, and a science teacher at Culleoka Unit School, where Elizabeth studied. To many, he was warm, charismatic, and respected by students. But beneath the charming exterior was a darker instinct, a desire cloaked in authority and deceit. He didn't choose Elizabeth at random. She was fragile, with a history of trauma and a lack of stable emotional support. Tad saw that, and with the precision of a predator, he moved in. Slowly, carefully, he positioned himself not just as her teacher, but as her protector, someone she could trust. The grooming began not with physical contact, but with language, compliments, comments about her being mature for her age, private talks after class. Then came handwritten notes, secret messages, and meetings behind closed doors. What looked like attention was actually manipulation. Tad fed her the fantasy of escape. He spoke about love, about running away together, about building a life away from judgment. He told her her family didn't understand her. that only he truly saw her. For Elizabeth, a girl already living in a world of instability, it felt like rescue. But it was all calculated. Tad researched travel routes, studied how to avoid law enforcement, and rented a discreet vehicle. Before they left, he bought her a ring, a symbol of twisted commitment. What he called a life together was, in reality, the beginning of captivity. On the morning of March 13, 2017, Elizabeth Thomas vanished. She left behind her backpack, her room, her routine. Tad had convinced her to get into his car and leave everything behind. He left a letter for his wife, claiming he needed time to think about his mistakes. He never mentioned Elizabeth. What followed was a 38-day cross-country escape. Tad drove for thousands of miles with Elizabeth beside him, crossing state lines. Using fake identities, they passed through at least 9 states, staying in motels, changing their appearance with dyed hair and baseball caps. They were ghosts on the run. Elizabeth was not free. She had no phone, no access to the outside world. She was cut off from everything. Tad controlled the narrative. He told her they were being hunted, that she'd be punished if found. He played the role of protector while keeping her in psychological chains. All the while, he spun the same fantasy. He told her they were in love, that they'd get married, that they would escape to Mexico and start over. He gave her a ring, and Elizabeth, overwhelmed, disoriented, and emotionally dependent, was trapped in a world she could no longer recognize as wrong. Meanwhile, the search for her became a national priority. Her face was on missing person posters across the country. The FBI got involved. The media followed every lead. People were watching, caring, searching. But Elizabeth didn't know that. Tad made her believe no one cared. After more than a month of searching, one anonymous tip changed everything. On April 20, 2017, someone called the FBI and reported seeing a suspicious man and a young girl living in a remote cabin in Siskiyou County, Northern California, a secluded, heavily wooded area perfect for disappearing. Tad had found work on a rural property, performing odd jobs in exchange for shelter. Elizabeth spent most of her time locked away, hidden from view. They used false names, kept a low profile, but someone noticed something wasn't right, and had the courage to speak up. The next morning, law enforcement surrounded the cabin. The operation was swift and quiet. Tad was arrested without resistance. Elizabeth was found inside, thin, pale, confused, emotionally depleted. She looked at officers with uncertainty, unsure if she was being rescued or punished. The manipulation had run so deep that her sense of reality was shattered. News of her rescue spread fast. After 38 days in captivity, Elizabeth Thomas had been found. Tad Cummins was taken into custody and charged with kidnapping, sexual exploitation of a minor, and transporting a minor across state lines with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. But the hardest part was yet to come. For Elizabeth, freedom didn't mean immediate relief. She had to begin the slow, painful process of healing, of understanding that what she experienced wasn't love, but control. She hadn't just been abducted. She had been reshaped, mentally confined, deceived into surrender. Tad Cummins' arrest was followed by a long and painful legal process. What began as a high-profile kidnapping case quickly revealed itself as something far deeper: a psychological manipulation, a complete violation of trust, and the calculated dismantling of a child's innocence. He was charged with transporting a minor across state lines for illicit purposes, kidnapping and obstruction of justice. The evidence was overwhelming. Text, letters, witness accounts, and Tad's own admissions left no doubt. This was premeditated abuse, cloaked in affection. In court, it was revealed that Tad had shown inappropriate interest in other students before Elizabeth, but with her he crossed every line. He admitted to engaging in sexual acts with her during the 38-day escape, making it legally and ethically statutory rape. In 2018, Tad Cummins pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. His wife filed for divorce. His children severed ties. And the man once seen as a devoted educator became a permanent reminder of how authority can be used to destroy. As for Elizabeth, the sentence didn't erase the damage. She withdrew from public life, began therapy, and worked to reclaim her identity. The healing continues to this day. She survived, but not without scar. The case of Elizabeth Thomas stands as a grim reminder. Abuse doesn't always come with bruises. Sometimes, it comes with whispered promises. Elizabeth Thomas survived, but what was taken from her can never fully be returned. At just 15 years old, she lost more than her sense of safety. She lost her childhood, her peace, her trust in the world. Tad Cummins didn't just cross a legal boundary, he dismantled an entire emotional universe, reshaping a young girl's reality to suit his twisted desires. This case reminds us that evil doesn't always come with a weapon. Sometimes, it arrives with soft words, gentle smiles, and promises of protection. Tad played the hero, but he was the most dangerous kind of predator. The one who enters quietly, gains trust, and poisons it. Elizabeth's story was stolen, but not silenced. She survived. And by surviving, she exposed a system that still struggles to protect its most vulnerable. May her name be remembered not for what she endured, but for the strength it took to rise from it. If this story moved you, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel for more true crime cases like this. And in the comments, tell us how can we recognize and stop predators who hide behind authority.